I've mentioned in previous videos that there are junk piles dumped all over this land. And some of these piles are actually opportunity resources. And I'll share that with you right now, because what we have here, again, when this was, before this was forest mulch, these were really tall trees in the path. There was a lot of brush like this and kind of like what's in the middle over there, that island. And so we forest mulched all that stuff out. By the way, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. And then we found piles of brick, for example, building materials. I thought I found a dead body too, because there was like a suit out here, but it wasn't dead. It wasn't a dead body. It was just the suit. But essentially what I tried to do is I tried to take the brick pile and make it so that I could drive over it by taking the bricks out and laying them in the path. So this is the top of a watershed. And we're going to orient this a little bit. So this is the top of a watershed. It's a little wet down that way. And then up here, it's a bit dry. So what I'm suspecting is that when it rains, the water comes down the hill up there, accumulates in this area, and then kind of goes down the hill, because this area gets really muddy. So initially, what I did is I took the bricks from the giant pile, and I started bringing the bricks out and laying them out in patterns. And there are already some bricks that naturally went that way. You can see this is like this. I started laying out bricks. And so whenever I found a brick that kind of stood up a little bit, I kind of shuffle it around to get it laid down. And so it's a little bit, I can drive over it. It's a little bit haphazard, but there's still this low area here that fills with water. And so what I'm doing now is the bricks that remain in the center, I'm popping those babies up, and then I'm putting them in patterns in this lower area. So I'm going to try to patch these low areas with brick in order to provide a more stable access point for vehicles, and then a little bit more level so that we can grow grass through it, and then ultimately be able to mow a little better, because you can see those bricks are still kind of scattered everywhere. Now, I'm not going to pull out all those bricks today, but basically we want the roads to be level, and we want the roads that if they have rainfall or water, that the water spreads and soaks rather than accumulating mud and coming off. So this particular property has a hard rule that we're trying to enforce, is that no motorized vehicles back here within 72 hours of a rain event. Because remember, we're growing grass on everything. I want trails like this over here rather than trails like this with the road, the drive parts. Now in some places stuff won't grow because we're putting these blocks down, these bricks down. And then later on, like the hill up there, you can see how the hill has got more erosion. Because sometimes there's four-wheelers back here. The hill's got a little bit more erosion than down here. So what we're doing is we are going to basically probably drop gravel on the road later, but it would take like 100 loads of gravel at like $300 a load to do this. So we're again using opportunity resources. So how are we laying these out? Now, the first time I went through and laid these out, I just kind of randomly laid them out and didn't really think about it a whole lot. And what we're finding is we want to go more towards like a road surface by putting the blocks down in a herringbone style, either diagonally herringbone or square like this. And so what we've got here is a pattern that gives us the tire over the shortest part of the block. Now, it would be better if we herringboned it diagonally, but it probably won't matter in the long run, because again, it's just brick. But the herringbone of diagonal would have our track running across the longest part of the brick primarily. But again, most of the bricks are going in one direction, so what I'm hoping is I'll meet up with stuff like this, and I don't see as many that are diagonal like this. And essentially I'm just going to brick, I'm not going to dig it out, but I'm going to brick the low areas so that when we're driving through the low areas, we're not creating more mud. And then later I'll drop like a number 57 rock over it and just patch the area. So we're near the property line. You can see the property marker right there. And so I'm just trying to use the resource I've got to kind of spread it out. Like over here, I just haphazardly, whatever, laid down flat. And some of this was already like this because it gets kind of dragged out. but I'm going to try in the areas where there are kind of muddy areas to put the blocks in, either diagonally or square, to connect with the blocks that are already in the ground, and then ultimately have brick 1 layer thick on the low part of this so that retain traction when it's muddy out here. And we can try to clean up the area a little bit so that we're not running off soil. And you can kind of see it here, how there's a little bit of haze where the soils ran off into the ditch here, and kind of keep the top end of a watershed or a low area clean. So I'm getting chewed up by mosquitoes a little bit, so I'm gonna get back to work and keep going. But again, it's an opportunity resource. This used to be a pretty decent sized pile, and I just initially started by just throwing the bricks down the path and then laying them flat. Now I'm gonna go a little bit more organized and try to kind of line the low area here and up here to reduce mud. And now the barking dog didn't bother me that much, but the mosquito flying around my ear bothers me. Anyway, like and subscribe. Join us at www.prosperityhomestead.org for more resources and details. And then I'll probably put a picture somewhere of this when it's done, because I'm not even going to fill it in. I'm basically just going to drive slowly over top of it until it compacts all down and ultimately gives me some surface in here while I'm getting going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next podcast.